He doesn't really even say much.
Well, because like he's being James Dean
Yeah,
the whole
exactly.
movie,
Yeah, yeah.
and Tom Hardy is being Brando the
Right.
whole movie.
Yeah, basically.
And that's kind of what I really loved about the movie, in that it showed the genesis of the gang was Tom Hardy's character Johnny seeing the Marlon Brando movie The Wild Ones
Yeah.
on TV and going like, "Oh, that's really cool."
I want to do that. Yeah.
I really like that, because it kind of shows that, you know, they were sort of like faking it for a while,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like they're
yeah.
so yeah, they didn't get into a ton of crime, really. Like that.
No, they kind of just skipped over at the end, right? Like, and then they got into crime.
Well, that's what I find so interesting about the movie, is that, you know, at first it starts off just it's a racing club. These guys like motorcycles, they like racing it around. He sees Marlon Brando on TV and he thinks, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah,
I want to
let's
be
start a
just like
club.
that."
Yeah.
So the club starts off kind of being a copy of what like an ideal of
Right.
like a cool motorcycle club would be.
Mhm.
And these guys are all like, they're sort of like weekend warriors, right? Like
Yeah.
they all have regular jobs.
Yeah,
That-
I loved how this character had like wife and kids, and he's like a trucker.
Yeah, and he's a truck driver.
Like when he's watching the movie, and he's like, "What are you rebelling against?" Like, what he got? He's like, "Yeah, what do you got?" To himself, and his wife's like, "What?" He's like, "Nothing."
I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
And like they're all like, the money from the club comes from them paying dues. They're not running drugs. They're not into prostitution or gambling or anything. It's all just like to hang out, because they think the lifestyle is cool. The lifestyle of just like being with your buddies and riding in the motorcycles. But then compare that to, they drive by those teenagers. The teenagers see them on the motorcycles and say, "Oh my gosh, they're so cool."
Yeah.
Then those teenagers are seeing they're looking at the copy, right?
Yeah,
and then those teenagers become a copy of the copy.
Right. Yeah.
But they don't have the same ideals.
No.
So they're just looking at the outlaw part and thinking, "Oh, that's the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to be hardcore and to be violent and to be like a total badass." And so they're coming to it with like completely different ideals. Yeah. And so that's what I found so interesting, is that by the end, when you have that part take over, the club itself has just become like a husk of its former self. It's being like eaten alive by people who don't understand what the reason they were starting in the first place, which was a bunch of dweebs riding around on bikes trying to act cool.
Yeah.